The first tear caught Marcus Wellington III completely off guard. He hadn't cried in 23 years, and not since his father's funeral, and even then, it had been more about the photographers than genuine grief. But sitting alone on the worn wooden bench in Riverside Park, listening to a young mother's voice drift through the evening air like liquid gold, something inside his chest cracked open. The woman couldn't have been more than 25, her auburn hair escaping from a loose ponytail as she pushed the stroller back and forth in a gentle rhythm. Her voice was soft but clear, singing what sounded like an old lullaby to the baby bundled in faded blankets. Marcus had come here to escape from the board meetings, the acquisition deals, the endless parade of people who wanted something from him. He'd never expected to find himself eavesdropping on this intimate moment between mother and child. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mom is gonna buy you a mockingbird." The melody floated across the small playground, and Marcus found himself leaning forward despite himself. There was something achingly pure about the scene, the way the woman's face glowed with love as she gazed down at her child, the careful way she adjusted the blanket against the October chill, the complete devotion in every note she sang. Marcus Wellington III owned half of Manhattan. His penthouse overlooked Central Park, his garage housed 12 luxury cars, and his bank account held more zeros than most people could count. But he couldn't remember the last time anyone had looked at him the way this woman looked at her baby, with unconditional love, without calculation or agenda. The baby began to fuss, and the woman's voice grew softer, more soothing. "And if that mockingbird won't sing, Mom is gonna buy you a diamond ring." She was making promises she clearly couldn't keep, Marcus realized. Her worn sneakers had holes near the toes, her jacket was patched at the elbows, and the stroller she pushed looked like it had seen better decades. Yet her voice held such conviction, such hope, as if she truly believed she could give her child the world. A second tear followed the first, then another. Marcus wiped his face quickly, glancing around to make sure no one had witnessed this moment of weakness. The park was nearly empty, just him, the woman, and a jogger disappearing around the bend. The setting sun painted everything in shades of gold and amber, and for the first time in years, Marcus felt something other than the cold deficiency that had driven him to the top of the corporate world. The woman's phone buzzed, and she answered with one hand while continuing to rock the stroller. "Hello? Yes, this is Sarah Martinez. I understand, but could you please give me until Friday? I know I'm behind, but I just started the new job and..." Her voice carried a note of desperation that made Marcus's chest tighten. She was talking about rent, he realized, about choosing between keeping a roof over her head and buying formula for her baby. "Please, I'm begging you. It's just me and Emma, and I promise I'll have the money by Friday. The cleaning service pays weekly, and I've been picking up extra shifts." The conversation ended abruptly, and Sarah stared at her phone for a long moment before sliding it back into her pocket. She took a shaky breath, then immediately returned to singing, though her voice now held a tremor that hadn't been there before. Marcus found himself standing before he'd made a conscious decision to move. His legs carried him across the small playground until he was close enough to see the worry lines etched around Sarah's eyes, the way she kept glancing at her phone as if willing it to ring with better news. "Excuse me," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. Sarah looked up, her hand instinctively moving to protect the baby. Her eyes were a warm brown, flecked with gold, and they held a wariness that spoke of too many disappointments. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude," Marcus continued, suddenly feeling foolish. What was he doing? He didn't talk to strangers, didn't involve himself in other people's problems. His entire life was structured around avoiding exactly these kinds of messy human complications. I heard you singing. You have a beautiful voice." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "Thank you, I was just trying to calm Emma down. She gets fussy around dinner time." She glanced at the expensive cut of Marcus's suit, the Italian leather shoes, the watch that cost more than most people's cars. Do you have children?" The question hit him like a physical blow. "No," he said quietly. "No, I don't." He'd never wanted them, had always seen children as complications that would interfere with his ambitions. But watching Sarah with her daughter, he felt an unexpected pang of something that might have been regret. "She's beautiful," Marcus said, looking down at the baby. Emma had dark hair like her mother and impossibly long eyelashes. One tiny fist had escaped from the blanket, and she was making small cooing sounds. "How old is she?" "4 months," Sarah replied, and her whole demeanor changed as she spoke about her daughter. The worry lines disappeared, replaced by pure joy. "She's been sleeping better lately, which is a blessing because I just started working nights. My neighbor watches her, but I hate being away from her so much." Marcus felt another crack form in the wall he built around his heart. This woman was working nights, struggling to pay rent, probably hadn't bought anything for herself in months, yet she spoke about her daughter with such love, such gratitude. When was the last time he felt grateful for anything? When had he last felt joy that wasn't tied to a successful deal or a conquered competitor? "The lullaby you were singing," he said, surprising himself. "My mother used to sing that to me." Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "Really? It's an old one. My grandmother taught it to me." "I can't afford to buy Emma all the things in the song, but I figure the promise is what matters, right? That someone loves you enough to want to give you the world." Marcus stared at her. This young woman who had nothing but gave everything. She was making promises she couldn't keep, but they weren't empty promises. They were filled with love, with hope, with the fierce determination of a mother who would move mountains for her child if she could. "Sarah," he said, and she looked surprised that he knew her name. He'd heard it during the phone call, but he didn't explain. What if someone wanted to help? Hypothetically speaking. Her face immediately shuddered, the wariness returning. "I don't take charity," she said firmly. "I work for what I have. Emma and I, we're doing fine on our own." But they weren't doing fine. Marcus could see that clearly. Sarah was drowning, working multiple jobs, falling behind on rent, probably skipping meals to make sure her baby had formula. Her pride was admirable, but it was also going to destroy her. What if it wasn't charity? He asked carefully. What if it was an investment in something beautiful? Sarah frowned, clearly confused. "I don't understand." Marcus took a deep breath. This was insane. He was Marcus Wellington III. He didn't make emotional decisions, didn't get involved in strangers' lives, didn't let a lullaby sung by a struggling mother reduce him to tears in a public park. But maybe that was exactly the problem. "I own a company," he said. "Several companies, actually. And I've been thinking lately that I need to expand into different areas. Music, maybe, arts programs for children, someone with your voice, your natural ability with children. That could be valuable." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "You don't even know me. You heard me sing one lullaby to my baby." "Sometimes that's enough," Marcus said, and he meant it. In the corporate world, he'd learned to read people quickly, to spot potential and talent. But this was different. This wasn't about Sarah's potential earning power or her ability to generate profit. This was about the way she'd looked at her daughter, the love in her voice, the promises she made with such conviction even when she had nothing. "What exactly are you proposing?" Sarah asked, and Marcus could hear the hope she was trying to suppress. "A job," he said simply. "Real work, not charity. I want to start a music program for underprivileged children. Lullabies, nursery rhymes, early childhood development through music. Someone who understands what it means to love a child, who knows the power of a mother's voice. That's not something you can teach. That's something you are." Sarah stared at him for a long moment, Emma stirring in her arms. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Marcus thought about the tears that had surprised him, about the crack in his chest that was still widening, about the 23 years since he'd last cried and all the years before that when he'd forgotten what it felt like to witness pure love. "Because," he said quietly, "you reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that there are still people in this world who make promises they can't keep because love makes them believe in miracles. And maybe the world needs more of that." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she looked down at Emma, then back at Marcus. "What would this job involve, really? Developing curriculum? Recording lullabies and children's songs? Working with families and children? Full benefits? Housing assistance? Childcare support? Emma could come with you to work. In fact, she'd be part of the program. What better way to teach the importance of a mother's love than to show it in action?" I don't know what to say, Sarah whispered. Say yes, Marcus said, and his voice cracked slightly. Say yes, and let me keep the promise you made to Emma. Let me help buy her that mockingbird, that diamond ring, all of it. Not because you can't do it yourself, but because sometimes miracles come disguised as strangers in parks who hear exactly what they need to hear at exactly the right moment. Sarah was crying now, clutching Emma close. Yes, she whispered. Yes, okay. Yes. Marcus felt something shift inside him, something fundamental and permanent. For the first time in decades, he'd made a decision based not on profit margins or strategic advantage, but on the simple recognition of love when he saw it. And somehow, impossibly, it felt like the most important business deal of his life. As the sun set completely, painting the park in deep purples and blues, Sarah began singing again. This time, Marcus found himself humming along, remembering words his own mother had sung to him a lifetime ago. And for the first time in 23 years, his tears were tears of joy.